Hi guys! So, oh my gosh, I cannot even believe that it has been so long since I filmed a video. I was just thinking back about how it's been I think almost 2 years, probably more, since I've talked to a camera and, talked about my life. And it's crazy to think because when I started this whole channel, I just wanted to share my experience going through the medical school application process, sharing my excitement in becoming a medical student, and I really was hoping to be a little bit more involved with what I was going to do with it. But as you know, medical school came. I was partly busy and then partly just trying to enjoy the moment and enjoy everything that I was going through, that it kind of just fell off, and I was trying to, I guess, find a way to incorporate it into what I was doing. And I don't know, I feel like it was hard for me to just figure out what I wanted to do with it. But now I feel like I am at a place where I'll be able to share a little bit more of more exciting times than what I was doing my first 2 years. And yeah, so I think we should start with that. I'm currently in M3, so that's a third year medical student. I am, I think, maybe a couple months in. I started back in June and it is currently September. I almost said October. It's currently towards the end of September, so I've done one full rotation. I had an elective block and I start my next rotation tomorrow. So that's super exciting. And yeah, I'm just in disbelief that it has gone so fast. I never thought that medical school would be going so quickly, but here we are. And it's crazy to think that by this time next year I will be applying for residency and gosh, waiting to hear back from where I'm going to interview. So the topic of this video itself, I really wanted to focus on, I guess, just talking about where I am right now and how medical school has been thus far. And like I said, I'm in my third year, so I have 2 years under my belt, and I feel like it's a good time to be able to share my story and I guess what I was going through in the past 2 years. And I also don't want to make it too long because this is just one of the first videos that I want to do, talking about medical school and I guess my experience. So yeah, so far it's been interesting. It's been fun. I think when I thought about medical school, I just thought horrible things because I think as you're applying, everyone's just telling you about how hard it is and about how you won't have a life and about how it's gonna take over your life and you're gonna be sad, and I don't know. I've heard so many things. And then actually being in school and going through the process and making friends and just experiencing everything the medical school has to offer, I feel like my experience has been really positive. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that I haven't had bad days, because there are just so many bad days in medical school. But there are also very good days and days that you're just so happy to be doing what you're doing that I feel like, at least for me, it makes up for the bad days. So for medical school, the first 2 years are more academic based. So that means that we're more so in classrooms and doing that kind of material versus being in the hospital and working with patients. Our school is actually pretty good about starting us off early in working with patients. So our first 2 years we do have experiences in the hospital and also in clinic, trying to shadow doctors and see what is going on in actual medicine, but I feel like it's very limited the first 2 years, so that can be a little bit tricky, especially when you're going through the very grueling times of medical school when there's just so much going on and you're trying to learn so much that sometimes you forget about what you're going for ultimately. And I think that for me personally really hit, I'd say my second year, so last year. Because you're just learning a huge volume of information and studying for things, and you're just why am I doing this? And it's really nice that they had hospital experiences for us to kind of regroup and bring it back into perspective and say oh, I'm doing this because I like doing this part, and in order to do this part I need to do this part. If that makes sense. So my first year as medical school as a whole, I would say we're pretty good. I said there were some ups and downs. I feel like first year there were probably a little bit more downs than second year, just because I think by second year I kind of understood what it was like to be a medical student and kind of knew myself and what I was capable of. Whereas like first year, I think the challenge is that you're really trying to figure everything out. You're trying to see how to study, like what works for you, trying to absorb all the information that they're sending your way, what's important, what's not, and just figuring out like what's your style of being a medical student. And what I mean by that is that for us at least, and I think most med schools at this point, all the lectures are recorded. So you can either decide to watch them in person, so go into a physical classroom and listen to this person lecture at you, or you can watch them on your own at your own time. Now, my first year, I was the type of student who wanted to be in person and go to every lecture and do that, and I will admit, like now looking back on it, it was very draining. Our days were very long, and sometimes a lecturer would lose me because of because I was just so tired. It wasn't that like they were maybe bad, although there were some bad lecturers. It wasn't necessarily that they were bad, it was just that I was really tired, and it was like my fourth lecture of the day, and you know, like when you're tired, it doesn't matter if they're lecturing about like the most interesting thing in the world, you just check out. So I learned for my second year that I couldn't do that, that I feel like for me personally, it just made more sense to go and watch them on my own. I could speed them up, I could pause them, I could check in when I needed to, and then like if I needed like 5 seconds to just go to the bathroom and breathe, that was also good for me. So that changed like from my first to my second year, and that was really nice. But as a whole, I feel like I was saying, initially it's more so like getting used to the material and getting used to being a medical student and getting into the rhythm of things, and then second year it's kind of just bringing it all together, kind of thinking about where you're going to go next, because second year is a big year in the terms that you are getting yourself ready for step two, so not step two, oh my gosh, for step one, I'm thinking about step two now. Getting ready for step one, which is our first board exam that all medical students take at the end of their second year, right before they move on to their clerkship years. So I took that at the beginning of June, right before I started my clerkships, and yeah, it was a crazy time. I'll probably do like either a separate blog post or like a separate video just on that alone, but I think the big part in second year was just focusing on like getting yourself ready to be in that mindset to study for this exam and to just do as best as you can on it. So I started studying back in January, and then like I said, I took mine June 1st, so that was like a good 6 months of just preparing for that, plus finishing up my second year of medical school. And looking back, it was very like quick, fast-paced, just trying to get through all the material and get myself in a place where I felt comfortable taking this test, and also just finishing up the year strong and learning as much as I can. So thus far, like I said, it's been a very positive experience. There are rough times in the terms that there's so much to know and there's a lot going on, and there are some times that you literally just don't have time to do anything except be a student. But there are so many times that you do have time to just go and live your life, do things. Probably not to the extent of someone who's just in, you know, the working world and has a month to go and do something. Not that everyone does, but you know, like you can request time off to go on like a small trip. Whereas for medical students, our time is like on this timeline, and if you have a break, you go and you do things, but if you don't, you kind of have to just, you know, roll with whatever you're given. So yeah, but now looking back on it, there are plenty of times that I spent time with my friends. My two best friends live in Chicago, best friends from high school, and I've spent a lot of time with them. If I was free on a weekend, even if it was just catching up for dinner, like I tried to do that as much as I could. Seeing my family, they live about 45 minutes out of the city, so whenever I could, if I could go home, I would. And I think I usually do about I'd say at least once or twice a month. I try to go and see them because obviously if I'm here, I want to be able to see them and spend time with them and make the most of me being in Chicago. But yeah, it's been crazy. But so far I'm very happy with my decision. I think for me it's been very good where I actually am going to medical school. Now our system is pass-fail, so I think that does contribute to it a little bit. In the sense that we aren't necessarily as competitive, I would say, as other medical schools, like amongst each other, because when you have a pass-fail system, I feel like you're more so concerned about your own performance instead of like trying to one up the other person or do better than whoever in order to get that high pass. It's more so like it's your own game. Like, how well do you want to do? How well do you want to perform? At the end of the day, if you don't meet where you need to be, like, it's a pass. But when you look at your grades as a whole and, you know, later on if you're like worried about AOA, it all depends on like what you have. Now for me, I guess the approach that I had the past 2 years was that I was going to try to do the best that I possibly could, but in the end I just wanted to do my best. And if my best meant like passing, just barely passing, that was okay. But if my best meant like getting a really high score, that was awesome too. And I think that that's really important to think about because we're very hard on ourselves. There are some subjects that we are just not, that just don't register with us. So yeah, for me that class was neuroanatomy. I just wasn't the best at it, but I tried my hardest and I did well enough to make it through my second year. Not my second year, make it through my first year with doing that class, and then did well my second year, so obviously it all works out in the end. So yeah, I know that that was a very brief overview of what has been going on the past 2 years, but like I said, I didn't want this video to be super long. I just wanted to kind of come in and check in and say like, hey, I do really want to start making videos again. It's really exciting for me to be able to share my experience, and I do get a lot of comments and questions about being a medical student, and it's crazy to see that some of my videos have a lot of views. So I'm excited to see what questions you guys might have about being medical students or about medical school or any part of it. So if you guys do and you guys want to be, I guess, in the loop of what I'm doing, like this video, leave me a comment, say hi, ask any questions that you want to ask, and obviously subscribe so that you can be notified when I post anything. I think now they want you to like hit like the notifications thing in order to like be notified that I posted anything, which will probably be handy since I probably won't be like posting super often, but I'm going to try to post as often as I can. With my schedule. Right now I'm about to start OB-GYN, so it's going to be pretty hectic, but I really want to do this and I love sharing my experience with you guys, so I will keep you guys posted about what goes on in my life and through the process of medical school for the next, what, 2 years? Yeah. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye!